Here we go. Hey, everybody. We're still in our temple. Got news on it, though. So that's always a good thing. Here we go. Hey, everybody. Echo. Oh, we wait for people to show up. Hey, I see somebody. Maybe that's you. Ruth. Hi, Ruth. Early as usual. Good going. And Ian says, welcome to all listeners. Corvidae says, hello. Hi, Corvidae. Aquarian, hello. Happy Sunday. Hi. Audrey says, finally I'm on time. Congratulations. Dan says, hey, everyone. Hi, Dan. Ruth says, laugh out loud. Yep. She's the early bird. She gets the worm. So, yeah, we had a little bit of confusion after our last show when we met with the contractor because he was concerned that he wasn't going to get paid. So I gave him all the information that he needed, and he contacted the United States Department of Agriculture, talked to the woman who's in charge of dispersing the funds, was reassured that yes, indeed, he will be paid in a timely manner. So now it looks like everything is put back on. So it's going to be just before Halloween. Supposedly, I think October 23rd is the earliest date he can get here. So we'll see. Hopefully the weather will hold for that. And the tree is still in our yard. It had to be rescheduled because of the windstorm we had. So construction and weather is a thing. That's going to happen next Saturday before our next live show. So that's where we're at. And we're ready to go as far as all the other stuff. We're continuing to get the temple ready and for the possible ceiling intrusion. We'll see. But we're good. We're happy. Hopeful that we're going to have a new roof and not have leaks anymore. So yay. That's what we've been up to. And I was a little under the weather this week because I got my latest COVID vaccine, and I had about 3 days of feeling just very tired and kind of blah. So back on track for making more videos this coming week. We just kind of had all this extra, reality stuff to take care of. It happens. Oh well, but we're here. And I try to answer all questions as much as I can. So tell me, guys, what do you want to talk about, and how are you all doing? Sundrop says hi, everyone. Hi, Sundrop. Seeing if there's a question. If not, I'll launch into something. I had an interesting dream the other night. Apparently, I have a lot of ships coming in all at the same time, according to my dream. 40 of them. I don't know what that means. There were a lot of 40 ships. Yep, there were 40 ships. That's what I said in the dream.
That's a good round earthy number.
Yeah, that's true. Manifesting Earth kind of thing. Yeah, we'll see. That'd be awesome. I'm ready. Ready for all of my ships, apparently. Waiting. I was very surprised when I saw them coming into the same harbor. I wasn't sure how they were all going to fit. But it's a dream, so,
Those things can happen.
Those things can happen in dreams. I had sort of an interesting delving into the past memory kind of stuff this week, too. And had fun experimenting with one of my crystals and getting better at seeing the energy around them, seeing the crystal matrix that is part of what they are. I was experimenting with a piece of clear apophyllite that I have, and it's becoming easier and easier for me to see that dark purple beginning, like I do with the sky. With the sky, it's like the popcorn gray kind of stuff that starts, but with the crystals, it's this dark purple right around the object itself, and then from there colors start coming in. So, and I actually saw part of the crystal formation that wasn't there anymore, like from where it had come from, I guess. It had been broken off of or something like that. So that was kind of interesting. Aquarian says, I've put my wand down, so to say, and have really been studying the Joyts,
I know.
Joytsh, the Vedas,
The
and
Vedas are,
and generally
Indian,
reading
yeah.
in time, light, and space. Just wanted to share what I've been working on in my absence. It's always good to expand our minds, for sure, and explore different possibilities.
and the Vedas are pretty interesting. They're almost like they're along with the tantric writings, but it's almost like they're two different versions of the same thing. You got the tantrics, the tantra stuff, not sexual tantra, just tantric writings, and then the Vedas. Usually the people follow one or the other. Some do both.
You hand me the lozenges over there. So I forgot to get them close by. Thank you. Sorry. Joytish means the study of light,
Okay.
a limb of the Vedas. Okay, cool. There are so many different systems out there.
Yeah.
Oh, then he took it back. He wants to reestablish that? I already read it out loud. I'm sorry. It's out there now.
That was a different one. I think, no? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I don't know why it would have been
He retracted it.
myself, I know, but I've definitely read it spelled Yotir, I believe. It means light, basically, as far as I understand it.
Aaron says, hello. Hi, Aaron. Aquarian says, I love how all the systems seem to converge. I didn't mean to retract it. Sorry. Yeah, well, these things happen. Sometimes I answer questions and then they disappear on our channel. Or sometimes I approve comments and then they disappear and I don't know why. So if you have left me a comment and it disappeared, it may not mean anything except whatever that is that goes on in technology. Julia says, hello everyone, smiles as she arrives and slips into her seat. Corvide says, I don't know if anyone has any good info on animism. It's something I'm drawn to, but I have a hard time finding good resources. Well, animism, as I understand it, is basically the idea that all life is imbued with energy and I think anything
all life or everything.
Everything. I guess when I say all life, I mean everything. This is true. Not just like animals, but rocks and things like that.
That was what I was thinking, but they call it the attribution of a soul to plants, inanimate objects, and natural phenomena, or the belief in a supernatural power that organizes and animates the material universe.
So basically, anything on magic should have something about animism in it. Because it's like the foundation for nature religions,
Yep.
shamanistic practices of all kinds. So, I don't know. Audrey says it's everything. Darling says hello. Hi, darling.
Yeah, I don't know of any specific resources though on the subject. I know lots of generalities about it, but no, yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, it's like learning how to converse with the universe, having a conversation with everything that is, figuring out not just the symbolism, but the meanings of the what the universe is trying to tell you back, sort of thing, and having that. So evolving and developing a language that you can use to communicate with and get messages from the universe would be animism. And I think that all the different kinds of things we do are part of that. It's like magical practices, spiritual practices, meditational practices. They're all ways to tune us and get us into the right frame of mind to be able to interact with and receive information from the rest of the universe that we're a part of. So I'm not sure if there is like a book on animism.
I think there must be, but I'm not aware of any.
Yeah. Aquarian says, do you have any inside knowledge of the Native American depiction of the four worlds, particularly the silver and blue worlds?
I do not.
I don't either. I mean, I've participated in a number of Native American ceremony and so forth like that, but that's not something I'm familiar with. And which Native American or what tribal collective mythology or whatever are we talking about here? Because a lot of them are different. So it could be specific to one tribe or a collection of tribes or an area in North America or South America, because they're also Native Americans, if we want to be correct. All the Americas. Lewel says, hello everyone. Hi, Lewel. Adriel says, hello, Siofra and Ian. Happy to see you both again. Hi, Adriel. Aquarian says, I love learning about Native traditions and culture. I believe the Navajo. How do you come to enter a sweat lodge? How did you come to enter a sweat lodge? I actually participated in 4 years in a row of medicine wheel ceremonies in the Okanagan Valley in southern British Columbia, and which was put on by the Native American various medicine men and women from around North America, mostly. And so I participated in a number of different sweat lodge ceremonies, and each one was a little bit different depending on the sweat leader. Also participated in a couple of sweats on Mount Shasta that was led by Charlie Tom and his group, the Modocs. Ian was in one of them with me, and I was in one before that, before he and I met with someone else. I've built my own, and their description to me of the symbolism of the sweat lodge. The lodge itself is round because it's the womb of the mother, and you go around the outside of the lodge first in order to make entry in, and then when you get in the inside, you crawl around the inside of the lodge and take your position wherever you end up, kind of thing. And then the stones are in the center, which represents the middle of things. Special people take care of the fire. They tend the sacred fire that heats the stones, and the idea is that those who tend the fire have to maintain a level of pure thought and intention while they're there, because they don't want to contaminate the fire with anything. They want the fire to be as pure as possible while they're heating the stones.
Which is the reason you don't randomly throw your own incense on the stones in a sweat lodge. If you ever see somebody do that, stop them.
Yeah, we had that happen in Mount Shasta. And then there's one person who is the leader of the sweat. Sometimes there's more than one in there, but there's one person who's in charge. And the person who's in charge calls for the number of stones they want to have brought in. And mostly I've seen them use deer antler horns for picking up the hot stones and bringing them into the lodge and placing them into the center. And then most of the sweat lodges I've been in have had 4 rounds, and each round is about something else. Like typically one round is about like the planet, praying for all life and everything in it. Another round is for your ancestors and all the people of the world. Another round is for your relatives, your family, your loved ones, and often the last round is for you, for healing. And I've been in both all women and mixed sweats, and the all women sweats are very visceral and intense, because when women pray, they pray about death and life and food and shelter and fear and pain, and it's and all of the emotions go into the steam, and between the rounds they open up the door, and the steam goes out up into the sky, into the heavens, into, the Sky Father, the Great Spirit, whatever they're using at the time. And that's how the prayers of the people go up into the heavens and cleanse you of those worries and concerns and anxieties. And sometimes between rounds, people go out. Sometimes they stay in. It seems to depend. And in the sweats I've been in, since they were public sweats, everyone is clothed. I think in private groupings and stuff like that, it might be different. There was no use of peyote or any other kinds of mind-altering drugs or whatever in the ceremonies I was in. The heat by itself and the singing that they did, the chants and so forth inside the sweat were enough to actually raise the vibration pretty well. And yes, it's always a good idea to know how to behave if you're going to participate in one. And I was there to learn, and I learned a lot. I like experiencing other people's cultural rituals and so forth, and being respectful of their traditions and finding the similarities between what they're doing and what I do. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. And so that's how I came to enter Sweat Lodge. I traveled pretty far. I think it was about 17-hour drive from where I lived in northern British Columbia to get down there. So it was a definite commitment. And I had a bunch of different experiences when I was there those 4 years. And 4 seemed like a good number at the end of that. I can't remember. I think that was around the time I started coming back to the States, not long after that. So Amy says, you have so many awesome experiences. I do, and I'm blessed, and I'm happy and glad that I did seek out some of these things. And yeah, it's like you don't find this kind of stuff out if you just sit and watch videos. Experiencing them in person is a completely different thing, for sure. So if you have an opportunity, I recommend it. And to find out what the traditions are, to make sure. They told us the reason why women on their moon aren't allowed in the sweat lodge is because women have the ability to cleanse themselves every month. And the sweat lodge is a cleansing ritual that they created because men don't get that opportunity to cleanse like we do every month as things are removed from us, as it were, and come out and so forth. And they consider that women on their moon are so powerful because of that natural process that they have, that if they enter a sweat, they take all the energy of everything that's going on in the sweat, and then no one else gets the benefit. One of the sweat lodges I participated in was a woman, a medicine woman from California. And in the last round, which was the healing round, she called for all the rest of the stones. They brought in like over a dozen stones. And within 4 minutes, they were dead. The stones were stone cold. I've never seen anything quite like it. And she said that meant that there were a lot of people in there that needed a lot of healing. And we took all the heat from the stones in our needs for that. But from a physics point of view or a science point of view, that was pretty remarkable because that shouldn't have happened. So yeah, it can be very powerful. And when you go to an event like that, there's always annoying people. There's always a few. And I had my share of experiences with people who didn't know how to behave and gave everybody a bad name. It really doesn't help. Ian mentioning that thing about throwing things on the stone was one of the things that happened in the sweat he was in with Mount Shasta, where a rainbow family person went in and decided to put their own offering on the stones, and the sweat leader was not happy. It was very interesting. So, Aquarian says, is there a particular wood they burn? This was super informative. Definitely something I'd love to experience. Thank you for the thoughtful response. You're welcome. I try to be good in my responses. So that's who I am. And I don't know if there was a specific wood. I know that they use some different woods for different purposes, but no one mentioned to me what wood they used to make the fire, if there was a special reason for a special kind of wood. I have used cedar to help. The natives up in northern British Columbia use cedar steam to clear the death energy out of a house where someone has passed, so that there's no energy left from their death in the house. And I've used that in my paranormal investigations to help out, and it seems to work pretty universally. Maybe because that's what I know it's supposed to do, and then I'm using it, and I tell people that's what it's supposed to do, and then they're using it. So, through our knowledge, understanding, intent, and so forth, we imbue it with that ability. But it was the only thing I know of is specific, but they do have, like, I also learned that cedar was considered a female tree. It was good for female problems, especially like female organ problems, uterus and ovaries and that kind of thing. And that women would sit with their back against a cedar tree to help when they were having pain and so forth. And so I thought that was interesting, since the cedar was my first wand, and the cedar tree I was automatically attracted to and had been sitting under for about a year before I went to the medicine wheel ceremonies. Yeah. So Tammy says, I need to get out more. Yeah. Eve says, hello, my dears. Hi, Eve. Marion says, I've read about how women have an incredible ability to cleanse themselves that men never ever get. From the Vedas, it is because feminine energy is absolutely divine, while masculine energy is darker. Super simplified. Well, yeah, and one of the medicine men that I met up there told me that a medicine woman gave him the experience of the three sacred powers that only women have, which was lactation, birth or creation, and menstruation. And somehow this woman was able to touch him and have him experience what it's like to be a woman going through those things, going through menstruation and then giving birth and then feeding a child. And in that sense, on a real basic level, female bodies, whether they're human or animal or whatever, are the doorways from the spirit, for spirit to enter into this world and become manifested as physical beings. And that's one of the reasons why almost all Aboriginal cultures' original stories about how the world came into being was always a goddess giving birth to the world, because that's what they saw. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. We're different though, and that's okay. Aquarian says, the cedar story is cool. I feel like the universe is always teasing what's to come. Jono says, hi everyone. Hi Jono.
Hi, Jono.
Thank you for joining us from way down there. Must be very late or early, depending, I guess, on how you look at it. How are things going where you live? Hmm. Yeah, I learned a heck of a lot when I was there. It was very, very interesting. I've met some sun dancers, and they're a special breed. And I actually know of a couple of white women who became sun dancers, which is kind of unusual. They haven't done it in a long time. When I met them, they were pretty young. But doing the sun dance is a demanding, painful process. And they're not kidding when they put the hooks into their chest and pull against the sun pole that they're dancing around. And it's for the people, sacrificing that kind of time and energy and so forth, so that they will continue to benefit from the sun and the gods, etc. Julia says, not to be contrary, but with the right stimulation, male breasts can produce milk. This is true. Not as well as female breasts, however, even if you use female hormone therapy to help. Laugh out loud, just an odd FYI. Yeah, there are some cultures where the men can breastfeed, and I think that's awesome that they can do that. But yes, like I said, oversimplified for sure. But this was a Native American guy who was telling me this, an old dude. So, remember the source. We learn new things all the time. We're constantly learning new stuff. But yeah. Yeah, in the first year when the serious natives came and saw all the stupid quote unquote white people that were around, they left. They decided that this was not a real event, and they were not happy. And it was interesting because then the organizers had to think about it. And the second year I was there, they talked to us and they said, you know what? We were really bad hosts because you came and we expected you to know how to behave and what to do and how to act. And then we didn't tell you how to behave and what to do and how to act. And then we blamed you for your ignorance, and that wasn't fair. And so then we started getting more actual learning in. So that was good. It was certainly an interesting series of events to watch it evolve and such. But there were a lot of lectures, and I've experienced over the years. So, Corvidae says, just thinking about it more, I'm probably drawn to the idea of animism because, as a witch, it's what feels the most natural, that everything has a spirit. Yeah, absolutely. Tammy says, speaking of the sun, is anyone familiar with Ra? Well, yeah, he was a solar deity in Egypt. Jono says it's 23:21 by me, but I'm not tired because I've messed up my body clock. It happened because I lost my temper badly after a homeowners association annual general meeting last week. Oh no. I've gotten much better, but I'm still capable of being very childish sometimes. Aren't we all? There is a 5-year-old in every one of us that, with the right push, may come out to yell. Julia says, yes, cultural and the level of technical and cultural sophistication does count in what is perceived in anything from biology to spirituality. Fabiana says, hi from Romania. Love the blue statues behind you. How are the fairies doing? Thank you very much. This is our water altar, hence all the blue. And I painted these things. There's a peacock over one shoulder and a fountain that I found in Goodwill over another, and a fairy over there in the corner, which is behind my little subscribe button on my screen. That is a candle holder that my son gave me for Christmas or solstice one year, and I decided I wanted to paint it up, so I did, and it became part of my West Walter.
West Walter?
My West water altar. I put that word together. How it became Walter was water altar.
Walter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to combine words spontaneously. But yes, and the fairies are doing pretty good. They're getting quieter, so I'm actually getting more encounters with them at the moment. Aquarian says Ra or Ram is Sanskrit for the fire or the heat. It is said if you want to send something up, I attach Ra to it. The cooling or rain is La in Sanskrit, bringing down the divine.
Yes, and by the way, those are bija mantras. Ra or Ram is fire, Vam is water, Yum is air, and Lum for earth. And those can give you the ability to control those elements if you work with them. That's the mantra will give you that ability. People can start fire with the Ra or Ram mantra. That's one of the ones they used to start fires with the mantra practitioners in India.
So Eve says, yeah, I'm familiar with Ra. Does anyone know where the word originates?
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, it's Egyptian.
Well, no, I don't know. That's why they, yeah.
Yeah. Beth says, hi, Siofra, Ian, and all. So glad I made it. You're welcome. Thank you for
Hello.
being here. Grumpy Al says, hello. Hi, Grumpy Al. Adriel says, hello, Siofra. Can you share how you do divination or make predictions? Most people use tarot, but a few use crystal ball, and I think it's very interesting. Any thoughts for the future of the world? I try not to look too far ahead, frankly. Um, so, I mean,
I just looked at Trump getting elected and figured that tells me everything I need to know about the future of the world.
let's not get
I'll
into
stay out the
that.
material subs.
Yes, let's
Sorry.
not get into that at all. um, I think that the reason that we're here is to take care of ourselves and to individuate and to affect the world around us as positively as possible for whatever corner we find ourselves in. And whatever form that takes, it's whatever form that takes. I look ahead in my dreams most of the time, and that is to see if I'm on my right path. And the things that I can't change, I don't look to finding out more about. I did have like I had a warning about the COVID epidemic in a dream, and the dream told me very specifically that there was a huge thing coming that was going to affect the entire planet, but that I would be safe, and that I needed to be behind a wall and keep the people that I cared about behind the wall with me. And so that's what I did, and that's what we went through. So I wasn't surprised and I wasn't concerned in the sense of like, this isn't going to stop, because I've lived long enough to know that things have got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and things move on to something else. That's just sort of the way the world works. And remembering a lot of different past lives gives me that perspective as well, because I've been through a lot of stuff that I remember from different times and different places. And the best place to be in is the moment you're in now, because people that have like kind of a rosy-eyed look of the past and how things used to be, people died in horrible disease, and there were marauders, and you know like very short lifespans. Really, things weren't better in the past. We might have some idealism or so forth where we want to like see things be different and simpler in the future, which I don't think is a bad impulse, but we have to be practical about what we can do and what we can't do and what we can affect. So when I get a lot of deja vus, I figure that I'm on the path I saw that I'm going to be on. I also had a dream once that told me it didn't matter which way I went, which was kind of interesting. I started going through this mountain to get to the other side, and I would like hit barricades or traps or spring problems or whatever, and have things happen to me, and then I went back to the beginning to see if I could go a different way where that didn't happen. And I still had things happen to me, but they were different things. I did that like a dozen times or more throughout the night. And I woke up in the morning and knew the choices I make are the only ones I can make in the moment I'm making them, but the outcome will be the same no matter which way I go. So it's kind of a weird way to be, but that's me. And when I did use divination to help people, I often just freaked them out, so I stopped. I also like experienced when 9/11 happened. I experienced that in real time. It sort of intruded into my reality pretty vividly when it was going on. So I'm definitely sensitive to that kind of stuff. And when I lived up north and I was away from everybody, I actually felt world events pretty well. And I also knew that Mount St. Helens was going to go. And the morning that it went, I woke up and I'd seen it in my sleep. And we had to drive to someone's house to get to a radio to find out if I was right, and I was. So it was certainly interesting to know that I could get this kind of information and get it accurately. But then again, not necessarily useful, because I wasn't in the path of the ash or anything else, and I couldn't stop it from happening. So it really depends. That's sort of my, thing. The world's going to be what we decide to make it, so I guess it's up to all of us in the future to figure that out. Beth says, hi, Grumpy Owl. Donna says, Siofra, did you have anything to do with the other gods in Egypt, or was your specialty Isis? I was definitely with Isis, but I had my uncle in this life saw me in the Egyptian life that he was in with me, where I was I was a seer. See, I've done that enough, I guess. Maybe that's why I'm not so into it this life. And I was wearing a necklace to Bast, so I think I have a connection to her as well. And Anubis introduced himself to me in a dream and had me sit on his lap in the dream to take me into the underworld. So I suspect I had a relationship with Anubis too. But they're not like, I haven't gone in to try and recover the memories in particular. But yeah, I do remember parts of the initiation in the pyramid, going out of my body for 3 days and exploring my future and my past, and then I came into this life to help recover someone, my brother at the time's spirit, who was going through the same initiation and had got stuck in time. So that was interesting. So yeah, I don't know. But I remember being in Greece as well, and I guess having done that in the past, I've decided it's not useful for me at this point. It's like everybody always wants to know, and if you're a good seer, then you've got all these, important people that want to know what to do, and people can die, and yeah, it's kind of a, a rather big burden to put yourself under. Sundrop says, oh, Tammy says, thanks, you're welcome. Sundrop says, is it true that even though you have cleansed your spiritual space, if you have clutter, it holds bad energy and can affect your spiritual practice? I think that depends on how your brain works. It doesn't stop me, and I am definitely not a clutter-free person. So I think it's like everything else. People like to find ways to judge other people's spiritual progress and tell them they're doing it wrong. So ignore it. Decide what works for you and do it the way that works for you. If having things neat in the place they belong works for you, and you don't have children to stop it from happening, or animals or whatever, then yay for you. And if it doesn't, then that doesn't mean you can't spiritually progress, in my opinion. So there's a lot of things, like you're blowing out the candle. That's bad. I mean, there are so many rules out there that people will jump on you for and say, well, you're doing it all wrong. You can't be doing anything. It's like, yeah, right. I'm sorry. That's not how that works. The reality is a lot more diverse. Aquarian says, that was great. You're welcome. Eve says, I thought it was interesting to learn that amen means so be it. Well, yeah, and, so mote it be is sort of the same thing, except in the new witchy version of that. Angela says, blessings, everyone. I manifest you joy and pumpkin pie or cake if you don't like pumpkin pie, because it's finally October. Yes.
How about if I want both?
Yeah, we want both pumpkin pie and pumpkin cake and pumpkin bread, maybe, even.
That's right.
Aquarian says, Siofra, I also experienced premonitions in my dreams, but lately my dreams have been so wild and forceful that I can only glean flashes or feelings at the moment. Yeah, sometimes it is kind of overwhelming. Just try and take it apart as well as you can down to its components, like me seeing 40 ships coming into a harbor that couldn't possibly hold them. And Ian was immediately, so your ship is coming in. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I can accept that. But, you can ask your dreams to try and be a little bit more clear and succinct, perhaps. Angela says, Siofra and Ian, what are your favorite fall treats and what are your favorite Samhain treat? Well, I like stews and soups and stuff in the winter. I don't know if I have a favorite treat, although I do like pumpkin pie. And I will make my own cranberry sauce, which is Thanksgiving, but fall, still fall. And Ian loves my cranberry sauce.
It's true.
store-bought stuff has nothing on my homemade stuff.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, and since we're not doing a group or anything, um, I don't have specific traditions at the moment that I'm following. I loved dressing up for Halloween, Samhain, and going to parties and things like that. And I often would dress as a fairy, a winged creature from mythology, um, a goddess from ancient times. I have a great Isis outfit I made one year. And those are my go-to outfits. And once when I was younger, I was a Romani. I got all of my mother's long skirts and put them all around me, and went with scarves and things like that. I love scarves and all kinds of things, and I like things that flow, and I like wings, and yeah. So dressing up is probably one of my favorite things. And as far as ritual and stuff like that is concerned, Samhain is one of my favorite holidays, um, historically. And in fact, someone on my page discovered the list uh, of all the people that are known to have been burned or hung or killed for being witches. And I have that on my page. And you can, like, it's there as a document somewhere on my page. And she found it and posted it on her page. And one of the things I've done in the past is to print that all up and then separate it out into however many people are there. I did this up at the prison too. And then everybody, because to read the whole list one at a time takes quite a while. But then to have 5 or 6 people all reading names simultaneously is incredibly powerful. And so I really like this time of looking within and get creative. I started working with the wood for my wands and stuff again. I'm working on the elder, and I'm working on the yew that I got when we were on our trip, and I'm going to work on some mountain ash, and just sort of get those creative juices going and so forth. So those are the kinds of things I like to do in the fall, I guess. You have anything that's favorite for you?
Not really, honestly.
Okay. Taylor says, hello everyone. Hi, Taylor. Julia says, yes, every time I get to thinking how lovely it would to go back to a more natural world, I recall how regular flu could kill a small, could lead to amputation and so on. Oh, a small cut. And then there's no air conditioning. Yeah, that's true. So, yes, and lifespans were definitely short. Angela says, also, hello everyone, hugs to all in the chat who want a hug. Jano says, he likes the hug, apparently. Adriel, thanks for sharing, Siofra. Didn't mean to get into politics, just prediction generally. I try to observe my dreams more, though it's too fantasy-like to understand, like having another life. Well, maybe you're actually having memories of another life, or having a dream of another life allows you to look at what's happening in yours without being personally connected to it. So sometimes having that kind of overview and distance can help us to see patterns that we might not see when we're in the middle of them. So just try and think of that in general. Sundrop says, I love anything pumpkin, especially pie. Angela says, Sundrop, I manifest you pumpkin pie. Sundrop says, I'm so happy and excited that October is here. Let me read to you, says, hi Siofra and fellow magical folks, greetings from Ireland. I loved your video about scrying. It really helped me so much. I'm so pleased I found a genuine channel for the craft. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for being a part of our community. We really like having people come in and ask questions and so forth, and so welcome to the group. Sundrop says, thank you, Angela, prayer poems. Lauren says, pumpkin cheesecake. Sounds good to me. Yeah, I'm sure that sounds good to Ian, but
yeah,
he can't have cheese.
Can't talk about cheesecake. I'm lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
Cheesecake is my absolute favorite dessert.
And no cheesecake.
Especially like key lime cheesecake or lemon cheesecake.
He likes the sour stuff, which I don't.
Sour. It's got to have enough sweet with it. That's
well,
the
yeah.
trick. It's got to be just
Yeah, but your idea of sour and mine are very different. It's funny.
Oh, true.
People's palates are so different.
Well, I like peppery, spicy stuff too.
And I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
Beth says, I fell again a couple of days ago cleaning the tiles in the foyer. I have a concussion, but I've been
Oh, I'm
obsessed
sorry.
with World War II documentaries and movies. Any thoughts on this new behavior? Well, I don't know. Maybe the concussion has shook something loose from a past life. You may be remembering a death. Sometimes injuries like that can do that. I don't know.
Yeah. I think a lot of past life stuff comes through in people that we don't recognize because it's comes through as like a tendency kind of thing or something like that. You know.
Yeah, I mean, we had one young man here when they came out with a Civil War documentary that was one of those reenactment things that was extremely accurate. And the commercials, he started having flashbacks, and he was certain that he had died in the battle that they were portraying, and he was freaking him out. He was only 17, I think, at the time. So we did an emergency past life regression for him because when that happens, you need to get to the core, to the root of it, and figure out what it is so you can move past it. And he remembered the battle and the injury and everything, but then he survived it and then remembered the rest of that life and then recognized some of the people that are friends of his in this life. So that turned out to be pretty interesting and very healing for him to have that. So it can happen for sure. And in a lot of tribes in Africa, one of the stories is that when you're born with some kind of a mark on your body, it's a mark of how you died in your last life. And some people have actually remembered how they died and who killed them and gone to the person who killed them in their previous life and called them to account for it. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's all sorts of things like that. Jono says, did Anubis seem as powerful as I imagine? I get Argus level vibes from what I've learned. Oh yeah, definitely. Anubis is awesome, and but he was very protective, and leading me into the underworld was not like a death thing at all. It was leading me through my subconscious and into the darkness and so forth. And he's the guide that leads you through there safely. And yeah, so it was very interesting. Sundrop says, oh, yes, Lauren, to the pumpkin cheesecake. Angela says, I manifest everyone all their favorite treats. And Angela says, pumpkin cheesecake exists? I've never found it. Maybe you need to make it.
I would if I could eat it.
Jono says, all you crazy pumpkin pie people. This is true. Angela says, magic is more magical when it's made by you, like home-baked goods taste just that much better. Yeah, this is true. And they can. And pumpkin treats. Lauren says, it's otherworldly. Angela says, and yes, Jono, I'm so crazy. I'm so a crazy pumpkin person. Pumpkin is just magical and yummy. You know, jack-o'-lanterns used to be made from turnips, not pumpkins. And the person from Ireland will know this because that's where the jack-o'-lantern came from, Ireland and Scotland, I think. And they would carve turnips in order to protect their house from, the people that would walk around and scare them off. Jono is laughing with a heart. Dorian says, ha ha, I need to practice interpretation, but I will as my dreams to be a bit more clear. Ask. Yes. And that's a good thing to do. And then get down to the basics. I mean, when I did dream workshops, one of the techniques that we used was telling the dream in different ways. First, you tell the dream from you, the dreamer's perspective. You recite the dream out loud. It helps. You can record it so you can hear it back if that helps, if there's not someone else to listen to it, kind of thing. And so you tell it from your perspective as the dreamer. Then you tell it from the perspective of some object in the dream. One woman in a workshop had a very intense dream about a stove. And when she became the stove, the meaning of the dream became apparent. She told the dream in the first person in the present tense. That's the other key. You have to do it in the first person and the present tense. And you retell everything that's going on from that perspective of the dream or the dream object. Try it out, see what happens. It could be very illuminating. Dorian says, sorry, I'm walking my dogs. That's okay, I figured it out. Beth says, I love dressing up, mostly flowing, whatever the moment takes me to. Yeah, me too. Jano says, for some of the newer Alcovers here, you have no idea what you're doing to Ian with this conversation.
No. Hey, that's all right.
He survives.
I survived.
Angela says, I got a skeleton decoration at my local store to dress in a pretty outfit. She was wrapped in mummy gauze. I took most of it off, but she wanted to keep the gauze on her face. I may get her some eyes. Make it with lactated milk, Ian. The cheesecake. It's not the same. The cheese is not the same. You can't just substitute cheesecake like cream cheese with milk. It doesn't work. But thank you. We appreciate. Lauren says, oops, sorry, Ian. That says,
again, that's fine.
I'm feeling being a medic. I'm allowing it to flow naturally. I'm open. This head injury has been bizarre. I'm so sorry that you fell and got a head injury. That can't be any kind of fun. I ended up having to go to the clinic this week because when I fell on my hip and I got that big bruise, apparently the bruise material got infected at some point, and so they put me on an antibiotic for a few days, and I had to put a lot of heat on it to get that to go away, and it seems to be getting better now, but it was a little bit worrisome there for a day. Erin says, I like apple dishes this time of year. Yeah, apples are fun too. Beth says, yes, turnips were the first jack-o'-lanterns. Angela says, I heard a story that is called the jack-o'-lantern because a man named Jack tricked the devil or some entity and wasn't allowed into heaven or hell, so he wanders holding a vegetable lantern, and you were supposed to leave a candle for Jack, and he would help you if you left him a candle, and he wanders helping people and adding candles to his old lantern.
That's interesting. I haven't run across that.
I haven't run across that either, but it doesn't surprise me.
Sounds like a likely story, yeah.
Sounds like something Christians would make up. Taylor says, that sounds very interesting on how to interpret dreams. Arian says, that's a genius technique. Thank you, Siofra. I will change the point of view and reevaluate. Yeah, it is like a book I've recommended a couple of times is The Dream Game by Anne Faraday. It's an older book, but she had some of the best techniques, and they still hold up. Just because it's an older book doesn't mean that techniques don't work. And that's that's one of her techniques that's in that book. And like I said, during actual dream workshops, I saw how effective it was. Of course, the other thing is to try to look at the dream first from physical reality, something's going on in your world perspective. So you have a dream that you fall off a banister or off of a balcony or something like that. If you have a place where you have stairs and a handrail, the first thing you do after a dream like that is go check and see if the handrail might be loose, because a lot of times your body will notice something during the day that your mind hasn't picked up on, and your subconscious is trying to warn you about a potential danger. That's one of the examples. Then you can look at it from the idea that everything and everyone in the dream is you, which is where the technique of becoming all these different things works out quite well. And of course, the other one is that the people in the dream actually represent themselves, and trying to figure out how to tell the difference can be tricky. I've definitely had some past life memories come up to me in dreams from time to time, and they're very different kinds of dreams when I have those. It's like there's a knowing that you get when you have something like that happen. You're going like, okay, that was not a regular dream. Same with the premonition type dreams that I've had in the past too. So yeah, dreams are certainly an interesting subject, and they're a direct way to communicate with the subconscious, and the direct way the subconscious tries to communicate with us. One of the things that she said in her book that I thought was telling was that your dreams tell you how your heart feels. And that's important to remember, because your heart may have a completely different look at what's happening than your head. Because the head is all intellect and, like you're trying to get this job or something like that. And it's like, this is the job you want. It's going to have great pay and so forth. Your heart picks up on some very strange energy at this place. You dream about being in a Russian gulag or a Nazi concentration camp with some kind of an evil guard, pay attention. Because your heart's telling you that no matter how good it looks on paper or how good you think it is, something is wrong, and you have to pay attention to those intuitions. So that's another example from her book about how that can happen. So yeah, learning your own language of your own subconscious is definitely valuable, because then it can keep you from falling into some
Absolutely
bad places. Let's see. Jono says, has anyone else also had mishaps this week? I smacked the bridge of my nose on a shelf and now I look like a thug. I'm sorry. You do have like two black eyes? I think there might be an astrological thing going on. Mary says, hi all, late today, but glad to be here. Hi, Mary.
I haven't had any issues anyway.
Not yet. Knock on wood, as they say.
Yeah, I don't.
There's a wooden table right there. Have you guys, Jono says, have you guys done a video on the importance of first person present tense in magic? I don't think so, in particular, except everything we do is usually first person and present tense.
Right, but it's something to point out to people, though, because, and especially Barden goes on about how important that is when you're trying to make something happen. Have it happen now. In the present, don't imagine that, like it will happen or it's going to happen, but that it has happened, that it is happening. That's the case.
Right.
Yeah.
You see it already accomplished.
Yep. Because you want to see your end result you're trying to get. You don't want it to try to happen, or you don't want it to, you want it to happen, whatever it is.
Mary says, have we talked about how beautiful your necklace is yet today? What is it? I love it. This is a citrine, and this is one of the necklaces that Jacqueline made. And I put up this is not for sale, because I decided I liked this one, and I'm claiming it. But you can see her amazing wire work and stuff like that. And I put a list up on my profile so people could buy them before I put it up on Etsy. So I have a listing. 3 of the pieces I put up have already gone, but you can look at the pictures. You can go to my Facebook page and look under photos, and the folder is called necklaces for sale, or wire wrap necklaces for sale, and we can figure something out. So if you really like her work, and she does amazing work, and she gave it as a donation to help the channel, which I thought was pretty remarkable. So yeah, that's where you can find them. Corvidae says, and me being taught my whole life that the heart is a liar. Yeah, true. You're not supposed to trust it because it's too emotional. Aha! Angela says, I had a candle tip over. It went out. It covered my crystal and wax in my desk, but now my desk and crystal is covered in the positive protective vibes. Well, good. Beth says, oh, I'm so sorry you fell. Good vibes on the way. Thank you. It's better. I finally got to the point where I'm feeling normal again. Yay. Took a while. Aquarian says, somewhat recently I had a traumatic dream where I woke up completely unaware who and where I was. It was really scary because it felt so real and familiar, like a premonition dream, only really bad. I've had nightmares and it wasn't that. After listening to you, perhaps it was a past life, karma, death, or experience. I don't know. I had an experience a couple weeks ago where I woke up in the middle of the night and I did not know who I was, or where I was, or what I was. But I wasn't scared. And it lasted for seconds, quite a few seconds. I don't know how many. And then I remembered. And then I went back to sleep. It was very bizarre. But I'm thinking that what that was the experience of being totally in the moment, to the point where you don't know who you are anymore, because you just are. There's not like all this other stuff that goes around being. So it was interesting anyway.
No, it's a perfectly valid perspective and a good mystical state. that's hard for people to accomplish on purpose, but it's well worth it if you can accomplish it.
It was definitely interesting. So Mary says, I just got citrine earrings yesterday. Good for you. This wonderful stone. I love it. Varian says, one thing I've been told is that sometimes we have karmas that aren't strong enough to manifest in material reality, so we experience it in the dream world. Well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, karma both good and bad, so a lot of times people say karma and they're thinking about only the bad stuff, but you collect all kinds of consequences that are, positive and negative from your own perspective and point of view, whether they are actually positive or negative at all in the universal sense is up for grabs.
Yeah, it's positive and negative as such are human perceptions. And outside the human perception, the human mind, and human judgment, things aren't positive or negative, Animals don't kill out of meanness, they kill out of nature.
Feed, food.
Yeah,
food.
being,
Yeah. So Beth says, I absolutely love Siofra's citrine pendant. I have a citrine point in my kitchen window. Lots of plants and quartz. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see everyone's kitchen window? Well, mine's got cross brooms across the top of it, plus a pentagram and bells. That's what I did with my kitchen window. I think I actually put a picture of that on my page, too. Astra A. Luna says, I emailed you about a fairy situation, and you gave great advice. I was really shooken up because I didn't know fairies were real. I see them now. They look like sparkling clouds and translucent. Well, I'm so glad that you emailed me, and I'm so glad what I said helped. I don't always remember things that I've said. So, yay. Beth says, Astra A. Luna, after you get used to them, when you're around them a lot, when you first get around to make it, I guess, it could be unsettling. I just sent his old friends. I think I got most of that. But yes, the first time you find out that something mystical or paranormal is real is always a shock to the human body. Because, reality now suddenly is different.
Mine was a physical shock because it was a wand that physically zapped me. Zapped me in my heart chakra, very obviously, and I noticed it at the time. First time I ever touched a well-charged magical object.
Yeah. Grumpy Al says, I've had something similar happen to me too, Aquarian. I also felt like nothing existed outside the room I was in. Someone else also had that happen in the place I lived in at the time. Interesting. Aquarian says, yes, thank you for saying it like that. Karma translates to work, meaning the work that must be done, good or bad. It depends on you, your world, and mind state. Yep. Astra A. Luna says, it's still strange to me, like to be in my room. Is that normal? An investigator helped me remove some mean spirits, but the ones in my place now seem pretty low-key, and none of them are biting me. Well, that's always good. I have setting boundaries is something we talk about a lot. And the more magically open you are, the more important magical boundaries become. So you can set boundaries with spirit beings and let them know what is and what isn't okay. That's probably something like along the lines of some of the stuff that I probably told you when I wrote to you. But, you set the tone. It's sort of like if you have cats, you have to decide whether you're going to let them jump on the table and on the counter and go wherever they want, or have ground rules where those are places they're not allowed, unless, of course, you're not home and they think you won't find out. But still, you have rules, right? And that's the same with spirit beings and so forth. You have the right to say, this is not a good time to go, leave me alone, or here's your spot, stay in your spot, or this is the time when we can interact together and I'm open to it, and so forth. So it's entirely up to you. Aquarian says that Grumpy Owl, yes, it was very strange and almost ethereal. Mary says, I have a lot of plants in my kitchen windows and I can see my rescued roosters outside in the yard. There's also many spider webs in my kitchen window. Astra says, I don't know why they want to be around me. I'm not even Irish. I'm Mexican and black. Is it possible that I was friends with elementals in a previous life? They judge us not by the color of our skin, our ethnicity, but by our energy.
But
And
it is possible, by the
and
way.
yeah,
Sorry.
it is always possible, but what it means is that you have an energy that they find both interesting, compelling, and safe to be around, and they like you. And so, you know, um, yeah, they see us differently than we see the rest of the world. We're groups of colors and energy and forms and things like that to the fairy kingdom, and we're more like lighthouses to ghosts who, human ghosts that are stuck because they sort of see everything in a gray, and we pop out, and so they're attracted to us for that reason. But fairies see us in a different way, and they've always collected around me. I've had other people say they see fairies floating around the edges of my aura on a regular basis. So, you know, um, that's a good sign. That means nature thinks you're good and you're okay. It sees straight into your heart and into your soul and your spirit and who you are. So take it as a compliment. Um, Donna says, Ian, I know you have respect for Lon Milo. I like your stories better.
Oh, well, thank you.
Beth says, today is National Raccoon Day. Raccoon Whisperer on YouTube tonight. The raccoons on the porch will be having extra treats and grapes and all their favorite goodies if anybody likes to watch them. We haven't had any raccoons in a while on our video feed. I had them a couple of nights. Odin Rule says, Hails, I was wondering why last week my comments were not seen read. I have no idea. It could just be they got missed or they didn't get through, and the internet is a weird mistress.
We do require all comments are automatically held until we personally approve them, though. So sometimes it can be a little bit. Schieffer is usually really up on doing those every day and getting them right up, but some could have gotten missed by accident.
Well, sometimes I approve a comment and then it just vanishes and I don't know what happens to it, and I have nothing to do with it. It's the internet that's doing stuff. But on the live shows, we don't have that. We have Ian as a moderator who can block somebody, because we used to have trouble with some bad influences coming in, unwelcome and so forth. But I have no clue. Never take it personally if that happens, because usually there's another explanation, and generally it has nothing to do with us.
Just repeat it.
Yeah. Aquarian says, I have to go, but thank you, Siofra, Ian, and everyone for the great conversation and community. Bye, Aquarian.
Bye, Aquarian.
We'll see you again.
Thank you for being here.
Bye-bye. Beth says, Mary, that sounds lovely. I love being around all the nature spirits around my property. They're old friends. Mary says, ooh, I'll check out the Raccoon Whisperer. Odin Rule says, slapping the wrist of the internet. Yeah. It's like, I wish I could control it myself. I mean, I had a comment that somebody put on one of my videos this week, and there were 2 copies of it. And so I approved the first one, and I threw away the second one because I didn't see any reason for them both to be there. And then neither one of them showed up. So I don't know. I don't know if it was my fault. But yeah, it's the way it works, unfortunately. Odin says, this week I felt a change in Earth's magnetic pulse vibe. Did you all? Well, the season has shifted. So that is always a shift in energy that I feel. And anytime the sun goes down, I start to, the veil thins for me. But this time of year, I sense the larger veil thinning as we approach winter up in the northern hemisphere. And so maybe that's what it is. Mary says, this has been an intense week for me with the full moon. Yeah, the moon, we didn't get to see it here. It was all foggy, but the night before, it came through my window and woke me up. All of a sudden, there's this bright light in my eye. I'm like, what is happening? Oh, I can't turn you off, can I? You're there. Odin Rule says, the veil, of course. Thanks for pointing that. Yes, seems so. Yeah. And that's why, more encounters with spirits and so forth can happen this time of year as well. A lot of things sort of ramp up. Donna says, Odin, yes, weird vibes, not bad, but definitely uncomfortable for me. Well, we're having a huge number of solar storms, and so that could also be a factor, because from being up north and being in the middle of some amazing solar storms that have happened in the past, it can definitely affect your own personal energy shield. All that um, vibrating ionized particles in the upper atmosphere can definitely, electrically speaking, get your own aura going in different directions. And I can hear them when they come. I don't get that anymore because I'm not in the right latitude for that. But when I lived up there, I could actually hear the northern lights, and they have like a staticky kind of sound to them, very energetic and electrical. And I would know when they were coming because I could hear them before I could see them. And then I discovered the coyotes can see them before I can hear them, because the coyotes would start going crazy this one night when we were out waiting to see if we could see the northern lights, and they would start yipping and yowling and going absolutely berserko, and then the northern lights would come up and they'd be singing through the lights, and then they would stop, they would slow down and start to stop making sounds, and then the lights would do the same. So it's like they were ahead of and saw the whole arc of the activity and reacted to it before we could. So that was interesting, and I really tried to see if I could find any kind of native stories up there up north that related between the coyote and the northern lights, but I never had any luck. So if anyone comes across something like that, let me know. I'd be interested in that for sure. Odin says, agreed, Jono. I felt a change. That seems to stay. And the veil is starting to disappear, but felt we merge with another dimension or something. Well, it could be a personal thing. Beth says, solar storms affect my dream weaving. I get hypersensitive to all things magic and a bit irritable. Odin says, agreed, Beth. Yeah, and we are in a very active solar year right now. I think it's not peaking until sometime next year, or maybe even the year after. So yeah, we're right in the middle of it all. Mary says, sorry, getting a phone call. Gotta go, guys. Bye, Mary.
Bye.
See you next time. Yeah. Life in the universe. Jano says the veil got too thin about 5 years ago, and unfortunately, we found ourselves in the stupidest reality. Well, I'm in agreement with you. Impulse control is gone. It's like there is none. I think the unconscious has just come out to play, and it's staying, and that's what we're dealing with on a worldwide level. So watch your own impulse control, and be aware of the possibility of losing your ability to stop yourself from saying or doing something really stupid, and try and stay on top of it. Astra says, yep, I'm doing way better now. The bitty ones did act like cats. Good. The bitey ones, not the bitty ones. Odin says, seems weird to say this, but seems that the vibes of the moon started to be different, or even feels like a ghost. They said moon was made of plasma in the 60s. And I don't think so. I don't think the moon is made of plasma, but I'll have to look into that. Is this a rock? Astra says, thank you. You're welcome. Beth says, Odin, I can feel it. The veil is the thinning. I'm comfortable in that space. Yeah, and I've gotten comfortable in it since it happens to me every night when I go to bed. So it's like just more of the same. It's interesting. I mean, running into that forest troll was like such a surprise, although I shouldn't have been surprised, It's like, but I was surprised. I was just like, wow, okay. So yeah, my abilities to see things have just continues to exponentially improve or increase or something like that. Odin says, that is true, Beth. I was more at peace, less angry. And it's all about our own personal journey when it comes down to it. Because we're all in different spaces. Everyone is the center of their own universe, and we have to remember that everyone is at the center of their own universe, and what they experience and see is going to be different than what we experience and see. That's really brought home to me this week when I was looking up my old partner to see what he was up to and see if he was still here in physical reality. and discovered that he takes credit for my abilities being my midwife back in 1978. And his view and my view of what happened back then are very different from one another. So it was an interesting look into that whole phenomenon. Um, yeah. Beth says, Odin, me too. Aster says, wow, that's encouraging. Odin says, it is like I feel less insecure and accept the faith that happens no matter what. Yep. Anna says, yeah, impulse control. You've seen all the videos of people losing their minds on planes? I'm convinced that never used to be a thing. No, it never used to be. People were very much more in control of everything. Of course, they were repressed controlled, but still, they didn't like act out like that on an airplane. And now they've just charged someone for Tupac Shakur's murder. Weird. Well, actually, they knew who did it for a long time, but apparently they had made a deal with him that they couldn't use his confession or anything he said to them, so he thought he was safe. And then he opened his mouth and started spewing stuff, and they got him. So, yeah, I guess that's the way that works. Odin says, Hecate was right, a dream that I once had with her. She told me the greatest gift ever is to be alive, no matter how hard it is. Yes, that is the gift the universe gives us, to be alive. Life is the gift. No matter what shape it takes, no matter what form it is, to be self-aware, to have, to happen, to be. Yep. And the Native Americans look at it that way too. It's like, what can you do to pay back the Great Spirit for giving you the gift of life? So it sort of informed some of their culture. Angela says, ooh, I just got handed a big chunk of dream amethyst from a visiting family member since they toured a crystal mine. Ooh. Sounds like fun is in your future. You in pain?
Yeah, just a back spasm.
I'm sorry.
Back spasms happen.
Yes, they do. Bodies.
I guess that doesn't, I don't know. Does that count as an injury?
Well, it's injuring as far as the pain level goes when it's happening.
Not helpful.
It's not helpful. Very distracting.
It didn't really do anything to make it happen, though. It just started kind of happening.
Yeah, well,
So,
body dynamics and electrolytes and all sorts of stuff come into play. Like, yeah, you got to figure out what to do with the body that you're in, one way or the other. Beth says, my younger friend just signed up for a class on Hathor Egyptian deity and how to open and close portals and find every aspect of our essence in those portals. What are your thoughts? I don't know. I guess I hope that's a good class. It depends on the teacher. People can offer anything, and they can say that they can teach you anything. Whether they can or not, or whether you can learn it or not, is a whole different subject. So, if you send me a thing about who the teacher is, I could maybe look into them. But then again, the personal take of the person who's taking the class is going to be the most important part, I would assume. Odin Rules says, Hathor is an awesome deity. Yeah, I met Hathor when I was doing healing on a cow up north. And as soon as I touched the cow to try and help it, I saw her. So I knew that she had come to take it. She had come to take the cow. That was that weird experience I had where I was doing distance healing on the cow when they shot it. And I got pulled into the other side with the cow when it died. So that was sort of bizarre. Odin says, Hathor gave me the advice that I should never be near people that can sabotage my energy. Beth says it's $10,000 in 3 installments. That
Wow.
seems like a hell of a lot of money. I would ask a lot of questions. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, that's pretty significant.
That sounds
amount,
like the
yeah.
beginnings of a cult, okay? In my opinion. Just from what you've told me, I don't know anything about it, I agree, but that's a lot of money for a class, regardless of what it promises it can do. How much energy is this person's energy worth? I mean, that's a heck of a lot of stuff. Odin says, wow, 10 grand? Yikes. Cult? Yep. Sounds like it to me. I mean, I have no problem with people charging for their time and their energy because everyone's time and energy is valuable and is worth something. So that is not the issue. But overcharging and overpromising seems like the beginnings of a cult. And then once you put out that much money for something, if it doesn't work, what are you going to do? Put out more so you can get it to work? This is how some of them work. Like, yeah, that's only the beginning. You need this other class now in order to be able to access the blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Beth says, that sounds fishy to me. Yep, we're all in accord. Angela says, my first paranormal thing was an enchanted doll a friend made. She used it in her own practice. I was frantic. She put her healing doll in my hand and said, here, just look at my friend and take a breath. Okay. Sounds like she made a healing doll. Jano says, Beth, some people work very safely with demons, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not even going to do Barden's Akashic Vaults because I don't think I'm mature enough. Portals willy-nilly? Nope, nope. Hey, I can open up a portal, but that's because I was in a ritual with 13 other people in the middle of a thunderstorm with lightning striking all around us, and used everyone's energy to open up that portal for the group of spirits that were stuck on the land to go through it, and then had ball lightning explode over our heads. So that's how I learned how to open up a portal and then close it. I mean, once that happened, I just knew how to do it, and then I could do it. I was not taking a class, but okay. Beth says, it sounds like a cult to me. Yep, me too. Odin says, the vibe of the planet changed so much that I could no longer eat certain foods. Yeah, well, bodies changed too. Definitely. Angela says, the doll looked back at me. I could feel it looking back. I did calm down. She answered all my curious questions as my first bubbles burst from my upbringing. And she taught me how to do doll magic. That's awesome. Beth says, Jono, I totally agree. Odin says, doll magic? How interesting. Beth says, closing is the hardest part. Well, not really if you know what you're doing. I mean, if you can open it, then you should be able to close it. It's like it shouldn't be that difficult. But if you think it's difficult, then you can't do it. Remember that. Watch out for those programs we stick in our head. We just like landed something into the subconscious that says this is difficult to do and no one can do it right.
Yeah, I have to watch out for that myself. That's one of my personal things to do, and I have to watch myself that I don't do that.
Angela says, spirits and deities don't seem to see color, which is nice. Instead of sitting with the wand, I'll sit with the doll and talk to it or design a doll around the intentions and work through meditations with the doll while the candles burn. That's how I do it. I don't stick pins in them or anything like that. Well, originally, the whole point of putting pins in a doll was to release tension and negative energy and illness from the body of the person that the doll represented. It was not to do harm anyway. So that's another one of those fallacies that we get stuck with from media and so forth. The voodoo doll was initially not intended to harm, or at least there's a version of it where it's not intended to harm. So Beth says, I don't have any problem opening one, but I have a little bit more resistance closing, but I do close it. Odin says, Siofra in the culture, what do they mean by powers of darkness? Powers of darkness. Well, when people use that phrase, they're probably talking about what they think are forbidden abilities, or going into a place of evil or something like that, which I don't believe in. The shadow self, I mean, there's parts of us that we've rejected for various reasons because of upbringing or programming or what have you, which is what the shadow self is made out of. And most of the time, those things work against us because we don't know that they're there and we're not working with them, kind of thing. So it's kind of, yeah, it's a weird phrase, and dark and light are just different states of energy, the same thing. They're not really opposites to each other. We just see them as opposites. That's part of the problem. We view everything as being in opposition to something else. And so when people use that phrase, the power of darkness, they're thinking of an opposite kind of thing to light, I would assume. That's my take.
Yeah, I would agree. And a lot of times people use that term to indicate things that meant to harm other people or things like that.
Yes, it's like the power of the dark. You don't understand how much is there and what you're missing. It's like, yeah, if you never did the work
It
and you
just
didn't
means
integrate yourself, then you're losing a lot of your power because you're all split in
It
parts.
just means the sun's on the other side of the world. That's all that means.
Yeah, well, the world has turned its face away from the sun, your side of it. Yes.
But it'll go right back.
Yes, the sun will rise again. All right. Oscar says, that's true. They don't see color. It's nice to connect with people on a spiritual level. We're all beautiful spirits at the end of the day. Tammy says, Beth, laugh. Angela says, tech glitches and troubles be gone. Go away. The technology will be nice to us. The glitches will eat data chips elsewhere. Okay, amen. Yes. Beth says, Astro or Luna, yes it is. Beth says, Tammy, laugh, laugh. Mary says, I'm back. Hope I didn't miss too much. I'm going to be babysitting my friend's paraplegic cat and needed to get information. Yes, you missed everything. We talked about the nature of reality, the universe, how the mind works, the nature of good and evil and darkness and light, and so I'm sorry. You're out of the loop now. You'll have to rewind that part. Corviday says, I have a tech spell like I to do with emojis. We only have a couple of minutes now, so let's see what we want to get into. Mary laughs. I always miss the good stuff. Odin says, Siofra, what do you think of a room all painted in black to something achieve concentration? Help achieve concentration. That's behind my little heart. I can't see it. Well, I guess it depends upon what distracts you. I think I would do better in a black room than I would in a white room. I can't stand white walls because I see things on them all the time and they're constantly moving, so they're very distracting. A black room might actually work, or being in a deprivation tank, sensory deprivation tank.
It would depend on what you're doing. If you're trying to achieve concentration and stuff, all black is fine for that. If you're trying to work with spirits, you need either a light color or dark color, depending on the prevailing nature of the spirits. And you have to consider that colors can affect your mood and emotion. So there's lots of aspects to consider there. If you're making a room that you're going to use universally to like do magic and mysticism and all kinds of different things and meditations, I'd go for either a really neutral color. Could be a neutral gray. It could be one of the Barden's neutrals.
Or purple.
So it could be a purple color. A Akashic color is a good for that type of thing. So yeah, like everything, it all depends on your specific focus. I would say for concentration, yes.
But
for
concentration
other things,
on
not
what?
necessarily. Well,
Yeah, I mean, concentrating on like your own idea, maybe. I don't know.
well,
But you could try it out and work. I would try something smaller than an entire room first, like, black curtains and like your own tent, concentration tent. Go inside of it, see what happens.
or something.
You don't have to commit to an entire room.
For meditation and stuff, I often use a meditation mat, and it can be whatever color you want that will work with whatever you're doing meditationally. For concentration on the higher beings and things, I usually use a white mat that I sit on.
And the individual.
Yeah.
Odin says, good idea. Concentration camp. Oops, tent. Yeah, that doesn't come out very good, does it? Beth says, purple light saltwater tank. All right, yes. That sounds awesome.
Well, that's a group. It's a group all getting together to do concentration.
That's right.
Have a hold of it at a concentration camp.
That's right. That's
That's
true.
right.
That would be a concentration camp if everyone was going to a camp in order to learn concentration.
Yep.
Yeah. It only has other connotations, however. Odin says, good idea, Beth. Grumpy Owl says, you could use a color changing light bulb and pick different colors for the room. Can't paint walls if you rent. Well, that's true.
That's true.
Yeah, and actually that is.
Yeah, one of Barton's recommendations is you've got, he's talking about spirit evocation and stuff, but and he's talking about using the lamps that take a fuel and have a wick, and then you can get different colored chimneys and things for them to light up the room in a different color.
Yeah, and each color is associated with a different sphere.
Yeah.
Julia says, if I get down on a mat, then my total concentration for the near future would be a focus on how I'd get the heck back up off the floor again. Yeah, same here. And you know, I'm watching a show or something, and this 20-something-year-old person just flops on the floor like no problem whatsoever, and then just jumps up willy-nilly and walks off. And I'm like, ah, they have no clue what's going to happen when they get older. That says, Odin, I love it.
Well, I know older people who definitely have trouble getting out of their Corvettes.
Well, that's true. Desi says, oh, I'm late. Wanted to ask about earthbound spirits manifesting visually at the same level of decay as their physical bodies. If they won't cross, can you sever the etheric connection? That's a good question, but does that mean that they're hovering around their dead body? And if that's the case, then yes, I would think that that would work. Usually I just talk them into it, though, so I've never actually had to physically detach one from a body. I find them where they are floating and not aware of what's going on and that they're dead. If you can convince them that they're dead, then it usually will let go on its own. So, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Odin says, I'll try it myself also, Beth. And Angela says, I want the veil to just go away from me so I can just have fun with all my dolls and spirit guides and just enjoy the mundane and the magical all together in one big hug.
I agree.
A cosmic hug. All right. Odin says, Siofra, did you had soul journeys or astral trips inside the earth? Well, I did go under a highway once, so we won't get into that right now. It's time for us to start going, so I have to stop talking, although I love to talk. What can I say? Odin says, cosmic hug to everyone here. Beth says, I remember being able to get up and down effortlessly. Now I'm more careful. Yep. Yeah. Tammy says, thank you, Siofra and Ian. Have a blessed week all. Thank you. And
thank you.
Next time we see
Blessings
you, we will be probably, if the weather holds, minus a tree. As he says, sorry, I didn't know how to phrase that question. Cutting someone's etheric connection is a worst case scenario. All right, well, maybe we can talk about that. You can come earlier next time and we can have more of a conversation. Grumpy says, have a great day, everyone. Darling says, blessed be. Beth says, this has been a wonderful evening. You're all awesome. Yeah, it's always fun for us, and I love thinking on my feet. In fact, after the last show, someone commented on how well researched these shows were. And I said, really? Okay, that was just me talking off the top of my head, so thank you. So bye, everybody. Blessed
Goodbye,
be.
all. Blessed be.
See y'all next time.